You know, I don't watch the new DuckTales series as much as people think I should. But it's one of those series that, in time, I will catch a glimpse of here and there. I mean, I do watch some clips on YouTube and various other platforms to get an idea of what the series is about and what direction it's going in. I mean, a good example of this is me kind of talking about Tangle and exactly what's going on there at times. But when it comes to DuckTales, though, when it was announced that the series was going to happen, a lot of us, including me, I think, were hoping and just wondering what characters, new and old, could they bring in into the series. What characters can they bring in from the Carl Banks stories, and what characters could they bring in as far as the DuckTales series goes? The original 1987 to about 1991 series. You know, who could they bring in? What characters would they, give a fresh coat of paint to, or a new backstory to, or somewhat of a new personality, but kind of keep traits or arcs about them that are familiar to older fans? Well, one character in particular that fans were probably wondering about, since, Fenton was introduced into the series, as well as Gizmo Duck. One character a lot of fans were hoping for was, of course, Gandra Dee. Because, as you know, Gandra Dee in the original series was Fenton's love interest. But just as it's been proven before, a character, even though they'll make their debut in a new version of a series, doesn't mean they're the same character. You want a good example of that? Check out this interpretation of Doofus. But I digress. Now, the question is, what is Gandra Dee's role going to be in the series? Is she going to become Fenton's love interest like she was in the original series, or something else? Well, her debut episode is coming up within the next week or so, called, get this, The Dangerous Chemistry of Gandra Dee. Now, Gandra Dee, you'll probably be able to see her design here on the screen, looks completely different than what she does in the original series. But she still is a pigeon, as she was, a pigeon bird, as she was in the original. The only difference, though, as you could see, is she's got some blue in her hair. She's kind of got that hairstyle that's very punk rock. And why is that? Because she is a fan of punk rock. She's more of a punk rock version of what she originally was. Now, what's interesting about the synopsis is Webby and Huey, I think it's Huey and Webby, are trying to help Fenton woo and win the heart of Gandra Dee. Now, here's a little bit of the twist. Gandra Dee, though, has dangerous plans for Gizmo Duck. What could those dangerous plans be? We don't know. So what's interesting about this is the creators are adding a bit of a wrinkle to this new interpretation of Gandra Dee. Whether or not she becomes Fenton's love interest in the series, which could be a nice nod to the fans of the original, it's totally up in the air. We don't know yet. But I love the idea that we are getting Gandra Dee in this series. Depending on what her reasoning is to possibly go against Gizmo Duck and all that is totally up in the air. And whether or not this episode she finds out that Fenton and Gizmo Duck are one and the same is going to be interesting. Is going to be interesting. as well as basically if a relationship is started, how much of a strain Fenton, basically what I'm trying to look at is if they do start a relationship, and whether or not in this episode she finds out both are one and the same, it's going to be a very intriguing relationship if they continue it on. Now, they do have an officer, a detective, that's been in the series before coming back, so that could play a role as well. Like, you know, is Gandra going to be arrested at the end? We don't know. So, it's going to be really interesting, this interpretation of Gandra. I mean, the one thing I will give the staff behind the show credit for is the fact that they like to add different, newer layers. They like to add some twist to returning characters. You know, they did it, like I say, with Doofus. They've done it, I think, with Goldie. You know, so they kind of did it with Magica for a while. You know, at the start. So for them to pull something off like that with Gandra, it's going to be really interesting. And I don't know, you know, where they decided to kind of make her into a scientist, chemist, kind of punk rock girl. But my only assumption is the spy episode that they did later on in the series, where there was a scene where Gandra was able to master the controls of a robot. And she mentioned to Fenton that because there was a certain class that she wanted to attend filled up, that instead she took robotic espionage, a robotic espionage class or whatever, and was able to I guess, graduate out of that class with flying colors. I don't know. So I don't know if maybe they got the idea from that scene or what. But the one thing about Gandra Dee is when you take a look at these two interpretations, this new one is definitely nothing like the original. I mean, she might have some similar traits and all that, but she is nothing obviously like the original. She might, like I said, have similar traits. They might keep the relationship between her and Fenton like in the original, but we'll have to wait and see. It's going to be really intriguing. It's going to be really interesting, you know, what role Gandra is going to play. Because we've never... because out of all the characters, out of all the things, a lot of longtime fans of the original DuckTales show wanted with the series is the return of a lot of characters. I mean, we know we're getting Bubba Duck down the line. Excuse me. We know that. We're getting Bubba. We know eventually we're going to get Della reuniting with her family. We know that. But Gandra Dee is going to be really interesting. I've always looked at the fact that this girl's had potential to be more than just Fenton's love interest and have her moments here and there. I've seen that. And obviously the creators behind the series, this new interpretation of DuckTales, have seen that as well, which is why they're giving her this new layer, to this new fresh coat of paint layer on top of her than what we've seen before. But it's nice to see that she's going to be in the series, what her role is going to be, what her relationship is going to be like with Fenton, and whether or not she finds out the one and the same in this episode that's upcoming or later on. It's going to be really interesting and really intriguing. So let me know what you guys' thoughts though on Gandra Dee, this new version of Gandra Dee, this new take on her debuting on DuckTales within the next week or so. What do you think her role will be like? How do you see things playing out between her and Fenton? And that's all I'm going to say, guys. So till next time, take care, God bless, I'm out.